Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life episode 175. My name is NBZ and I am melting. I am melting and dissolving because the sun is not built for this country. It just doesn't work, and when...
I think you mean the country's not built for the sun.
You're correct, yes. You are correct. That is the exact phrasing I was looking for. Correcting me, of course, is my co-host Bally, who joins me from a much, I imagine, cooler environment than one I'm in.
Very cool up here in Edinburgh. I've got the window open. It is warm, but I'm feeling at a perfect temperature.
That's good. That's nice. See, that's why Edinburgh's nice, because it's like there's never too much heat. And sometimes, yeah, it rains. Sure, it rains a fucking lot in Scotland. I get that, but...
I love the rain.
I'm a dreary person, you know? Yeah. It matches my mood most of the time. The rain is good.
I'm one of these people who likes to run in the rain because it just means no one goes outside when it rains. And it's like, hey, I can just run in summer in the rain and it feels nice and warm and fine and the roads are empty. It's great.
Helps, like, get the sweat rolling off you as well, you know? Cleaning you almost to some degree. Exactly. Purity to it. Anyway, as I continue to hopefully not die in this overwhelming heat, which I was going to have my fan on me, but for recording a podcast, having background fan noise, not the best thing in the world, so that's unfortunate. But we're here to talk about video games, Nintendo, all the other things in the world. So what are we going to talk about today, Bally? Also, I didn't ask you how you're doing, but I guess we inferred.
Very well. I was going to say we need to talk about our backlog club.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about that. Do you want to talk about that now before you tell everyone what we're talking about? All right.
Top of the show.
We're doing a backlog club still. It's happening. It's happening next time on the show. Can you believe it? Nintendogs Plus Cats, a video game where you look after some little doggos, some little cats, and I have, I'm very high expectations because the DS game was just a classic. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully, all of you are playing along at home with us. That's the whole point of this, so you can play along, send us your thoughts on the game. If you played it back at the 3DS launch as well, and you have thoughts from back then, send those to. You can send those to our email address, which Bally will tell you right now.
Our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Perfect. And you can also post in our Discord. We've got a link in the description for that, but we have a thread there for Backlog Club stuff. So as you go along, tell us what you're naming your animals, all that stuff. It'll be a fun time. And we'll do that next time. So you've got 2 weeks to play as much Nintendogs Plus Cats as you humanly can. Okay, Bally, what else are we talking about on today's show?
On today's show, we're going to talk about the games that we have been playing. We've got some emails, and the Jukebox returns for the third segment, where I will be testing you on your video game music knowledge. Exciting
times. Hopefully, Bally, you do not do something nasty to me. Last time I was very kind to you.
That would be a shame.
That would be a shame. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But until we get to that time, it is time to talk about video games, and... there is a Nintendo game that came out, Bally. It came out 2 weeks ago, so last time we did the show, hadn't really had enough time to dig into it. But Paper Mario, the Origami King, released for Nintendo Switch. One of Nintendo's only first-party titles this year so far. I think it's been... was it just Animal Crossing and this? I feel like there must be something else. There was Ring Fit Adventure last year. That was last year.
The Clubhouse game thing.
Clubhouse games came out. Struggling to think of anything else.
Pokemon DLC.
They did. I think they put out the Tokyo Mirage Sessions remaster as well, so that counts, I guess. But yeah, one of the few Nintendo games this year. And my history with Paper Mario is interesting because I've watched a bunch of playthroughs. I watched the first game. I have a very good idea about it. I kind of talked about a bit of this last time with Bug Fables, because Bug Fables is very much more a traditional Paper Mario in the vein of the N64 game and Thousand Year Door. Whereas Origami King, I think a lot of people were expecting this game to be kind of following in the same mold as they have been the last couple of entries. I played Sticker Star on 3DS. Sticker Star, a really nice looking game, especially on the 3DS with the stereoscopic, and Paper Mario always had a gorgeous art style. I just love the aesthetic of it. It's just this unique thing, and Nintendo have done this in the past with their other IP. You look at Kirby with Rainbow Curse, is very kind of claymation. Yoshi has been in a very woolly, yarny aesthetic for a while now, and Paper Mario is kind of the genesis of that, I'd say, with the whole idea of paper craft and Mario being a flat object on the screen, and he turns left and right, and you don't really have any kind of 3D version of him. So Sticker Star is an okay game. I enjoyed it for the elements that were cool, like looking at it, and some of the writing was okay, but it had a lot of problems with its battle system. There was not really an experience kind of level up thing going on, and a lot of the bosses sucked because you needed to use objects that were known as quote-unquote things, and so these things could be stuff like a bowling ball or a fan, or like real-world objects, basically. And bosses couldn't be beaten unless you use that very specific thing on that specific boss, and there was really no guide of how to do it. So you just had to sit there, go to GameFAQs, look up what to do, and it was kind of miserable. It wasn't great. Despite like a lot of the other things being cool about it, it kind of broke out from the world setting as well. There was an overworld map, so you went from town to town and thing, and it wasn't really cohesive, is what I'd say. And then Color Splash came after that on Wii U, which again was kind of a disappointment for people because it was not an RPG. It used more kind of resource hogging stuff, and there was no reason to fight enemies. Battles were in there as if it was still a JRPG, but it wasn't an RPG anymore. And so this is the conundrum, Bally. And I know you've definitely followed Paper Mario over the years, and we've kind of chatted back and forth about doing the original Paper Mario as a backlog club and putting that in a poll. And I'm sure we'll get around to that at some point. But from the outside perspective, what do you look at when you see the Paper Mario series, and is there anything about it that appeals to you that makes you interested in it, and how have you followed it from the outside?
Just with my experience with JRPGs, the idea of like having JRPG mechanics and level ups appeals to me more than the games without those mechanics, and obviously Origami King is included in that. So yes. I would personally like to start with the N64 version, maybe like first, and that's I guess the one that's the most easily accessible. I don't think any of the others are that accessible.
Yes, because the GameCube one, like, there's no virtual console anywhere for GameCube games, and that game, very popular, obviously, which means it's very expensive on the second-hand market. So, yeah, you can download, I believe, the first game on the Wii U virtual console.
Yeah. And like, what concerns me most about Origami King is, like, I'm sure the world is fantastic. I think the writing, from what I've seen, looks quite cool. I think it's the lack of an RPG system, but obviously, like, I don't want to wish this game to be something that it's clearly not, you know. And I think that I'm open to another battle system. I just think from what I've seen of the battle system, it's not maybe. It doesn't look too interesting to me. And obviously, I've not played it. Maybe I'd have a different view once I'd tried it. But from what I've seen, like the battles and kind of like the boss battles, they seem, I don't know, not rote, but I think it's something I'd get tired of quickly. And I don't know how you feel about the battle system, because I know you're about maybe 15 hours in. Is it holding up well?
Yes. So, okay. So, all that said, right, my perspective on Paper Mario in the past, the only game I've played really is Sticker Star, even though I have a lot of knowledge about the series and have watched a bunch of it before. Origami King is a goddamn fucking delight, and I'm here to tell you, Bally, that there is one game in the Switch library I will directly compare this game to, and that is Luigi's Mansion 3. This game has hard Luigi's Mansion 3 vibes in so many ways. It is obviously gorgeous to look at. It has such interactivity in the environments, in terms of Mario has his hammer, and his hammer is kind of his weapon in the RPG world, as it were. I think even the Mario and Luigi series, they have hammers, and so you can jump on things, you can hammer things, but like finding these hidden toads in the environment, little environmental puzzle solving, just the joy of collecting coins. It's always been great in Mario games. Like, there's an inherent love for it that I have in Luigi's Mansion, of just getting money, just sucking things up with your vacuum. And I feel so similarly about Paper Mario in terms of just moving around and hitting things and jumping on stuff. Feels good. It has that inherent, like, nice feeling game design, all the way down to the confetti that you throw around yourself, and you hit trees and confetti falls out of it, and it like sucks up into your body with this really nice sound effect. There's a real aesthetic pleasure to Paper Mario that I think is only rivaled by Luigi's Mansion 3 on Switch. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, Bally,
definitely does.
Let me tell you, you might really like Paper Mario the Origami King, right? And the thing that it also does, it just has great variety in its locations, different places you go to, but also the writing is so funny. Like, it's really incisive.
The water looks incredible.
The water does look great, and now Nintendo apparently have become a meme account because they have no other content to post. So they're now riffing on very niche Miiverse in-jokes about that guy on Miiverse who just posted about the water all the time on that platform. So, boy, it kind of tells you the situation Nintendo's first party is at the moment. But here's the thing, right? Like, I feel so many people, as soon as they heard that Origami King didn't have level ups, didn't have RPG elements, were like, well, fuck this series, it's never going to be good again, I'm not buying this game, blah, blah, blah. And I definitely get that, right? Because...
Well, you can just give those people a spreadsheet and they can have fun with that.
Totally, sure. just tot up numbers.
If that's
right?
all they care about.
Do an equal stuff. Like, and that, I don't want to degrade those people because they're totally right.
Sure.
Like, there is literally no point to battles in this game. If you avoided them all, you'd still finish the game, no problem.
Does that make you avoid battles?
What the battles do provide, and what I think this game is, and I think this is so important to do, is don't go into this game with the perspective of it being an RPG. Don't do that because you'll only be disappointed. Go into it thinking this is similar to Luigi's Mansion, a kind of adventure game style thing where you're going around, you're talking to characters, you're finding things, and there is light puzzle solving as well. Like, there are some cool puzzles within the space, and there's also kind of some action there. And this is where I'm thinking, like, potentially for the future of Paper Mario, where it can go, is getting rid of the RPG turn-based stuff and focusing more on the action. Because I just fought a boss that was pure action. There was no grid, there was no timer ticking down. It was a giant thing on a ship, and I had to avoid it. I had to jump over things. I had to use my hammer to hit it. And what this would mean is tightening those mechanics up a little bit more, because they're not purely built for action, right? And so there is a little bit of, not jank, but it doesn't feel the same as like a traditional Mario game would
Mario
feel.
versus Donkey Kong feel.
No, oh god, it's nowhere close to that level of just garbage.
Automated jump when you... Anyway.
Yeah. No, that objectively sucks. Which me and Bally had a giant conversation about objectivity, obviously. It doesn't objectively suck. Well, blah, blah, blah.
Anyway,
but... Yeah. I think Paper Mario feels good enough, right? It feels like, hey, I can jump over this guy's attacks, I can hit his tentacles, like I can get out of the way of these things. And it was really fun. It looked amazing as well, like giant tentacles hitting the ship and these kind of water circles like bursting out from him, but they're made of paper and so they look amazing. Just real great aesthetics going on there. And I was like, wow, what if the whole game was like this? What if the whole game involved a bit more action and a bit more real-time combat, right? You look at what Final Fantasy VII Remake did to that original game and made it more action-y, and they really nailed that. If Nintendo doubled down on that a bit more, focus on it being a bit more of an action game, I think they could have something really special on their hands, honestly.
Maybe this is the stepping stone to get there.
And it totally could be. It totally could be.
Are you about to come to... Okay, I'm dying to know what you think of the standard battles.
Yes. So the standard battles, which are basically puzzles. They are turntables. It's basically a dartboard. So think about a dartboard, and on the dartboard there are different enemies strewn all about. Your objective is to get them into a position where Mario can jump on their heads and take them out in one shot so they don't attack him and don't do damage. And those have been, from what starts out as really handholdy and really like fucking come on game, like it's obvious it's such a Nintendo game in terms of tutorialization and being really slow and treating you like a 3-year-old.
I'm all up for that. I love a good long tutorial.
Bally loves it when Nintendo treats him as a 3-year-old. That's his perfect state.
That's why I'm a Nintendo fan.
And yet, like, I'm at this point now where I come across these and I get stumped by them. I'm like, I need more time. And you can use the coins. Obviously, coins are a thing that they just fucking throw at the screen. Like, you trip over a bush and 1,000 coins drop out of it. They're just... Money means nothing in this game. But the reason for that is so that when you're in these battles, if you are pressured for time, which often you are, you're kind of sitting there, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, and you realize, oh god, I have 5 seconds left, and so you quickly hit the plus button to just dump coins into your account so that you can...
It's a weird button to choose, but...
Yeah, it's strange. You can also press the Y button to make toads appear, and the toads will kind of help solve the puzzle for you, so you can basically pay the toads to do the battle for you, which is weird because I guess the reward for battles is coins, but then you're using coins to solve the battle. So it's like a zero-sum game. It's like, why did I even engage with this in the first place?
Does that make you avoid battles and like, is it fun?
Yeah, so to some degree, I have avoided certain fights, and because it does feel unnecessary, but when you get to a new area, it's like, oh, it's new enemies, let's try them out, let's see how it is. And the puzzles tend to be really brain busty, and just figuring out, so you can rotate the board in multiple ways. You can either do it so you can go each concentric ring, so think about the dartboard like rings going outside. You can go the entire ring, you can spin in a circle, or you can shift it so that it's kind of a line that goes across the dartboard, like a straight line, like not a radius, what's the diameter? Like a diameter across it, and you can shift that entire board back and forth. So there's movement horizontally, but there's also like kind of cyclical movement. And trying to line up everybody for certain positions. The positions you want are either everyone in a straight line or 4 characters clumped together near the center of the circle, because Mario can either jump in a row across them, or he can use his hammer to hit 4 spaces together at once. So those are the 2 modes in which you want to get these enemies spaced. And I honestly think that they should have made it so that if you get them all spaced, they just die straight away. Because that's the puzzle, right? That's the point of the battle system, is just get them in a row and hit them, they all die. There have been situations later on where you get them in a row, you solve the puzzle perfectly, but your boots don't have enough damage to kill them all in one hit. So you do it, and then, they're still on the field, they attack you, and then they rotate to another random position, you have to re-rotate them back again. So there's a little bit of time wastiness going on there. You can mitigate it, because some weapons you can get like shiny boots or shiny hammer, and they have higher damage output. So if you want to use those, that's fine. They are limited.
Are they permanent items? They don't burn or anything?
Well, they do. They kind of break. They are breakable weapons. So, but you can buy more of them, so it's not a big deal. So yeah, if you're in situations when your health is a bit lower or whatever, you can use those. And the game, I've died once in the game. Surprisingly, I think it's just because I was caught unawares. And if you don't have the correct button press timing to block, then damage can be pretty hefty. Bosses can do pretty large amounts of damage to you.
And there's like save points along the way, aren't there?
Yes, there are, and one of my favorite things. It's such a weird thing to like, but you know how I like really stupid small things in game, like throwing away trash in Astral Chain. Like, it just feels really good. Just hitting the save block in this game is awesome, because Mario jumps, he kind of crumples, his like character model crumples a bit because he's like hitting the block, and he just hovers in midair as it saves, and then he drops. So while the save is happening, he's just like caught in this hovering animation, and then he drops. I don't know why. I really like it. It's just this little nice touch that is satisfying. It makes saving the game satisfying, and that's kind of the thing with Paper Mario: The Origami King. Is the battle system is passable, and there's elements of it that I do really like. The boss battles actually are more interesting, because they have the same dartboard approach, but instead of having you lining them up, they're in the center, you're on the outside this time, and you have to make a pathway to get to them. And going on this pathway involves arrows, and you can only go via arrows. If you go left, then down. You want to get to the center, basically, so you can attack them, but you also need to make sure that you land on an attack icon. So landing on the attack icon, sometimes you need to use your kind of 1,000-fold arms technique, which is your side character, your Navi in this game. She's called Olivia. She's the sister of the Origami King, who's like the evil villain. She follows you around. She's kind of the character who talks in the game, because Mario's a mute, of course. He doesn't have a voice like Link, like Mario. All Nintendo's best characters, none of them actually can talk. All their tongues were ripped out from birth. And basically she gives you the ability to stretch out your arms really long, and sometimes you use this to fight bosses, to do certain puzzle solving with them, but also you can use it in the environment to open up spaces and to go to different places. And that's also really satisfying because it uses the motion control. And so there's one moment where you have to open this thing, and she's like, smash it. So you basically pull your Switch controller back, and you just like smash, smash, smash by literally moving it in the air. And I know people don't like gimmicky motion controls, but sometimes they're really well done, and the rumble works with them. I don't know. It's fun. Like, it's just really delightful. This game does a bunch of stuff that it doesn't need to, right? Like, you don't need the battles in here. They're just unnecessary, but they're kind of fun to solve puzzles.
Do you think there's some sort of weird rule. I know that one of the creators said like, oh, you're not allowed to use Nintendo Mario characters, like they can be in outfits but not changed it, or some weird wording. Do you think there's any rules around there needs to be battles, otherwise it just becomes an action platformer, and that's not the genre this is meant to be?
Right, otherwise it's not a quote-unquote Paper Mario game anymore. Right, but so then I would argue that they haven't been quote-unquote Paper Mario games since the GameCube one, right? Because Super Paper Mario was even more of a platformer. It did this weird, like, side perspective thing. So, maybe, but, like, it's one of those things, right? Think about how long it has taken Nintendo to get rid of lives. Only in Super Mario Odyssey are there no lives, right? It is a relic, a tradition that is only there because it has always been there. And so it maybe feels like Paper Mario has always had battles. So that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Regardless of the game design, regardless of the impact it has on the experience, it was always there, so it's always going to be there. And I fundamentally just don't think that needs to be the case anymore. Because, as I've said, I just fought this boss that was great fun. And it was all action. And I didn't have to worry about unnecessary coins and doing a battle system. Because, fundamentally, if this battle system involved me gaining experience and leveling up, I'd love it. I think it was great. And I still think it's really good. I think, from a design perspective, it's really fun to engage with this kind of these shapes and figuring out, and my brain sometimes has a real hard time with spatial reasoning and just figuring out where things are supposed to go. So it's providing an ample challenge, but the problem is I just don't need to do it. There's really no reason for me to do it, and I only do it if I'm like, I need a little gameplay variety, so I'm going to run into this enemy, or I'm going to hit, or if I'm forced into it, where I'm in a room where I just can't get past the enemy without attacking them. Otherwise, there isn't a point to it. And that's the ultimate game design challenge for them, is like, why is this even here when the player doesn't need to engage with it, and in fact will save time and probably money by not engaging with it? Are
the encounters random, and will they keep regenerating in an area? Like, is it possible to just be like, right, I want to clear out all the encounters in this area, and then I'm going to have a fun time exploring without having to worry about battling? Is that
You can totally
possible?
do that, yes. Okay. You can totally do that. I think they probably do respawn when you go to a completely different part of the world and then come back later in the game. But if you are staying within that place, then yeah, for the most part, they just will go off the map, and so you don't have to deal with them. But to be honest with you, like, it's not that hard to avoid a lot of them, especially in the more open spaces. You can run away, they'll eventually get tired and just stop chasing you. And yeah, I really like the thematic kind of the different areas you go to. There's a point at which you go to a Japan themed area, and I was like, man, Ghost of Tsushima vibes here. It's very fitting that both these games came out on the same day. But you go to this theme park that's called Shogun Studios, and it's like a samurai themed area, and it's this little town, and you got to go around finding items to open up a door and go around and explore it. And you do a little ninja shuriken mini game where you throw things. Like, there's so much care and attention to detail put into. Oh, the soundtrack is also really good. So, like, here's the thing, Bally. I think you really like this game because it's doing so many things that we love about Nintendo games, which is just that constant surprise and delight of new places to discover. And the thing is, with Nintendo writing in a lot of their games is not great, because it tries to strike a serious tone. When you think of Breath of the Wild, it's like, it's this epic grand story. But when I think NOA especially just have a great writing department for more jokey stuff, and you see that with like Kid Icarus Uprising and obviously in older Paper Mario games. But there's so many like laugh out loud lines in this series, and this game especially has so much of that, just charm and character and world building. And look, it's not the most mind-blowing story, but like that's not what the game is trying to go for, right? It's just there to delight you and to surprise you, and I think it's really successful at that.
My only other concern is, and this is one of Luigi's Mansion 3's biggest strengths, was like it was just so fresh and it was so lean, and it was a fairly short game.
Yeah, sure.
I know you're only halfway, maybe 15 hours of what is potentially like a 30-hour game.
Yeah.
My concern is that by the end of 30 hours, I'm going to get very sick of the battles, and a lot of the freshness might have worn off. I don't know. And I mean, you might be able to check in next time and just kind of update on that aspect, because that would be my only concern. But otherwise, if the Luigi's Mansion 3 comparison stays true, then I totally agree, and I should probably give this game a go, like, at some point this year.
Yeah, I think you would really like it. It's the thing about the comparison I would say that is most apt is because you're constantly finding new places and new environments in Luigi's Mansion 3, and maybe the pace is a little slower in this game, so you're not getting as fast of a clip.
Right.
But you are always, and I know that there's like a limit to how far this will go, because there's 5 giant streamers that captured Princess Peach's castle, and I've now defeated 2 of them, right? So I've got 3 more to go, and I'm in the middle of doing the 3rd one at the moment. So there's a very clear roadmap for where the game is going. Like, you know exactly what you're doing, you know exactly where you're going to go. But there was a little twist that happened right before I got to this 3rd area, and something happened to a character, and we had to go off and do something else, and we found this entirely different place, and it revealed something about the backstory of one of the side characters, and then something really sad happened, and I was like, that was a bummer.
It sounds quite Luigi's Mansion, where you think you're going to go floor by floor, but then they mix it up a bit, and yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
And like, man, the game made me feel something. I was sad for a little bit this morning when I was playing it, and I was really impressed by that, honestly. So this is a really weird game, because I think there are certain people who just are not going to play it because of the battle system being pretty much useless. But if you're the kind of person who likes wandering around spaces, seeing beautiful it's like such a gorgeous game, absolutely jaw-droppingly beautiful, and the soundtrack is great. Like, put on headphones, just sink into the couch and just run around and have a delightful time. And I think, you know, the world's a sucky place. Paper Mario is certainly not that. It will bring your mood up for certain. It really does. So yeah, cool. I really like it. And of course, I'll check back in it probably next time. Maybe it goes downhill from here, right? Maybe it's just, I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
Or it just maybe wears off a bit, which often happens.
Maybe
games,
it does wear off somewhat. Some of that magic starts to wear off. But so far, about halfway through, I really like it. I think it's really, really good. So cool. That's that. I also played a game called Carrion, which is a independent game that's published by Devolver Digital, and it came out last week, I think, on Switch, on Game Pass Day 1. I don't think it's on PlayStation, I'm not sure. But it's a game where you control a giant red creature who is the monster.
You play as Carrion, apparently. I didn't know Carrion meant like the decaying flesh of dead animals, but you play as that.
You just play as a bunch of flesh, essentially, made sentient, and it's basically a reverse horror game, because you're the fucking monster and you're killing all the scientists and people in the lab, basically.
I just hope they don't have a sequel where you're playing as one of the scientists. I do not want to play that game.
Right, but that wouldn't be interesting, right? Because then that's just a generic horror game versus this, which is inverting the whole idea of it. And so I think me and Bally, who hate horror games, were maybe attracted to this idea because it's the inverse of that.
I love the premise. I thought it was great, and it really does a lot of things that, you know, are very tropey, but when you're the one being the big beast doing all the tropes, it's very fun, where they do have rooms that are just full of scientists that are unarmed that you can just tear through, and they do have elements...
And have, like, no remorse about it, because, hey, you're just a monster with no feelings or thoughts of your own. You're just there to destroy and nothing else, right?
And they do have, like, you know, pipes and areas where you can stealthily sneak up on more of the heavily armored guys and get them from behind and drag them away into the darkness and eat them, you know? And
it really is like there's little kind of pipes that you just like pop out of and then just slink away again. And, and you can imagine what those guards are feeling of like, my friends are just disappearing around.
Yeah.
It is really like behind the scenes of the horror.
Like there's even that moment where you think, right, I'm big and powerful, I'm just going to go guns a-blazing into all these enemies, and they're all shooting at you in flamethrowers, and it's like a proper action, you know, horror film where they're all attacking the enemy. And so, like, there's all these levels of, oh, that would happen in a horror film, that would happen in a horror film, you know, and you are, like, role playing all of them, and it's actually really good in that sense.
Definitely. So you played this as well as me, Bally.
Yes.
You finished it yesterday, right?
Yeah. It took me 4 or 5 hours.
It's pretty short. It's a really good experience.
It's really good length.
What were your main takeaways from it? Because for me, the thing that instantly drew me to it was the movement. I love how this creature moves around.
Yeah.
It's kind of really disgusting and like sloppy almost, in the way it like squeezes through holes or like.
Sound design is incredible, which makes all of these aspects, from the combat, the movement, the eating of people, even like the sounds of the guns sounds pretty good. Like it's all so well put together.
Definitely. But part of it is kind of this almost spidery sense of you can go pretty much anywhere because your tentacles...
You're essentially flying or swimming in like a 2D sense.
Yeah, your tentacles will just grab onto the sides of the environment, and you can move so quickly through them.
Yeah.
And so for me, even in those areas where there's a lot of guards and you maybe... Basically, the idea is when you take damage, you lose your bodily mass, and so eventually you'll be a much smaller version. You start out really small and you slowly build yourself up by eating people, basically. Yeah. And then if you get attacked, you lose parts of yourself and your mass shrinks.
And that becomes like part of the puzzle, because this game does have quite a large puzzle element, and you have your 3 states, as it were, and they relate to your size, and each state has its own abilities, and those abilities have ways of interacting with certain doors or certain trip switches and things like that affect how you get around the level. And when you are like the largest version, like you just have so much health, and you have like this power to like put like a shield up, and it's pretty cool. I agree with you on the movement. I think that because there is a lot of busy work in terms of going back, flicking a switch, going forward, flicking this switch, moving there, just a little bit of back and forth, just getting the right switches and moving forward, I think it feels a lot less inconvenient by the fact you can just move so fast doing those just the more slightly tedious busy work in that sense, where in other Metroidvanias, you might have to platform your way all the way there or something. And sure, the platforming feels fun when you're discovering a new area in a standard Metroidvania, but if you're just maybe backtracking to flick a switch, the platforming might feel a bit, well, it'd be nice if I could move through this area faster. And in Carrion, you can definitely just sail through an area really fast if you've cleared it out of enemies and come back. And honestly, in terms of moving from A to B in like any Metroidvania, I think this is probably the best in terms of speed. I can't even think of any, and that's mainly because you are flying, you're not platforming. But I don't think anything really comes close in that sense, in a weird way.
No, it's just rapid, and I think that kind of adds to the terror of the creature you're controlling, because as you say, you can just kind of burst out the shadows and just grab someone and then disappear just as quickly.
Yeah. And you are quite vulnerable, actually, which I think works really well. If you are facing down someone with a flamethrower or a machine gun, and there are like other kind of like droid enemies in the game that get progressively tougher. And most of the time, the way to defeat them is you grab them and throw them around. But then you do unlock moves where you can kind of just grow spikes and stab straight into them and this sort of thing. But you are vulnerable. I think the difficulty is a really good balance. There are definitely a few parts where I just kept getting shredded, and I'd go, the checkpointing is decent.
And there are certainly areas where they almost force you into being a smaller version of yourself, so that they can have a more hand-designed area that is more challenging because you have less mass and therefore less ability.
Totally. And like one ability of the small Carrion is you can go invisible. So it's really like, these enemies are really difficult. We want you to sneak up on them with invisibility and then just grab your tentacle, grab them out of back into the shadows and that sort of thing. And that stuff.
They also have a
really
web sling kind of ability that was helpful for the kind of small spinning droids. Because they have blades that if you get contact with them, they'll start mashing you, and so you can just kind of like attach them to the ceiling and then just grab them and smash them about a bit, which I found pretty satisfying. You were talking to me about how you found it a little tricky to navigate in this game because it is ostensibly a Metroidvania, and so you would imagine like, okay, you're going a little non-linearly around these places, trying to find where to go, how to open the next area, and things like that. And the thing this game doesn't have, which is an interesting choice, is a map. There is no map. And I was kind of okay with it. I tended to be able to find my way around all right, mainly because when you are going through, I found it pretty linear. You are almost boxed into a space, by which I mean maybe 10 or 12 rooms maximum that you can go between. And you know that there's an objective you have to complete within that space. And so for me, I did get not stuck necessarily, but there were definitely moments where I was like, okay, I need to do this. How do I get there? And it just took a little bit of time for me to work through it. I know you struggled with that a bit more and found it a bit trickier to kind of wayfind through the environment. Especially because it looks so similar. Like a lot of rooms are there's not much variety in terms of the place you're exploring.
Yeah, nothing too bad. And I would actually compare it to a game like Stealth Inc. 2, where I just felt that game, it almost didn't need an overworld. And what I mean by that is that there is an overworld in this game where there's one world where you can access all the other worlds. And I think if you're going for something more linear, I think you can totally design this game in a way where you don't even need an overworld. It could just be linear, room to room to room. And I think I would have enjoyed that more.
Yeah, so like when you suck yourself into the next place, you can just go straight to the next.
Because exactly like Stealth Inc. 2, the environments... Between the environments are fine, but the environments of the overworld itself is very samey, and as a result, I sometimes got confused. Okay, I'm back in the overworld. I've just done that level. Where am I going next? And that only happened maybe like 2 or 3 times, and then I got stuck far fewer times actually in the little worlds that you go into. And you're right, there may be like 5, 7, 8, 10 rooms or whatever that you're kind of going between, and there's essentially save points you're reaching, and you need early in the game I think you need 4 save points in a room to clear out the world, and then later it becomes like 6 save points you're accessing. And that design is all done very well. I think either I would have liked the game a bit more linear overall, or just give me like a map at least in the overworld or something.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, but when I got back to those spaces to find the next place, to me it was like, oh, I just got this power up, so I just need to look for a place where I use that power up for the most part.
Yeah, and that happened to me the majority of the time. It was only maybe like 2-3 times I was just like, okay, but now where am I going?
Sure, yeah. And some of those aren't quite as clear as the others, so I totally get where you're coming from, but it could definitely do with another pass in terms of just wayfinding and making that a little bit less of a clunky experience. But there's also, like, there's light story elements here, and I think my least favorite part of the game is they do flashback to a human character. And when I started, this is really ironic, right? Because when you play as the monster, it's one of the best feeling games I've played in a long time.
I'm starting to think it was on purpose now.
Maybe, because like, wow, I know these designers can make something that feels fucking incredible to move around an environment, and maybe because they spent so much time on that stuff, they just didn't have time in development to care about what the human characters did. Because when you start moving them around, it's just like fucking molasses, and you have to hold down a shoulder button to even get them to move at a proper speed, and all you're doing is kind of walking through environments, going down ladders, like hitting a switch, and it's supposedly story segments, almost flashbacks, but they're not very clear, and there's nothing that interesting going on.
I guess they like the idea that you can interpret them in different ways, but it's the sort of thing I would have liked a bit more clarity on. Okay, but what's this person doing, and maybe why are they doing it? And I agree, it's just going up and down ladders, and they are short, which is nice. I think they could have been even shorter, and yeah, I think it wraps up in a cool way.
Yes, yeah, those sections are almost justified by what it does by the end, but I don't know that I really needed to play them, you know? Although, that said, there are sections in the game, you do get an ability, basically, where you can mind control an enemy. So, if an enemy is dead or...
Which, again, is like a horror film trope that is really cool to carry out.
Exactly, especially when you just become one of those guards and you have the gun and you just gun down your other guards as that guard. Which I did enjoy. And there was one puzzle in particular where you're in this space with water, and you had to raise and lower the water from one area to the other, and you could only do it by becoming this guard and then flipping the switch as the guard, so you could then go through to the next area.
There were some moments when you needed to put your tentacle into a guard to control them, but they were already dead, and because they were dead, it meant they were like a flat corpse on the ground.
Yes.
And sometimes it wasn't clear that this is to do with like, I guess, pixel art design, but sometimes you needed that corpse on the ground and to control them, because you can reanimate a dead corpse in this game, which is also very cool. You sometimes couldn't even find the corpse, and it was a bit like, oh, where am I going? I know I need a dude to open a door, but I can't even find this corpse.
Especially if you've munched on them and they're like cut in half. But I don't think any of those sections had that issue, because they always made sure you had one available if it was necessary.
Yeah, often the corpse would be on the other side and dead, but you would still have to go back, like, use them anyway. It worked out.
Definitely. So there's a lot of cool ideas in this thing. And as you were talking about the pixel art, it's definitely a Devolver style game, right? Like, it has that kind of grimy, grungy aesthetic to it.
It works really well, though. I thought overall the design, apart from that one issue, was really strong.
Definitely. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. Just, I'll play any one of these types of games. I'm a Metroidvania dime a dozen. But I think it just does something different, and I think that's really cool, because there are so many of these types of games that come out, and I play a bunch of them. I'm very familiar with so many of them, but it's really nice to have one that does a twist on it that you've not really seen before. And yeah, I had a great time. Yeah,
I think it takes an idea and does a lot with it. It's not just reverse horror film. It's like,
right,
there's 3 sizes. They all have different abilities. We're going to mix up the gameplay quite a lot. It's not just action, it's not just puzzles, it's quite a good combination of both. The second anyone gives me a Metroidvania that's under 6 hours, I'm always going to want to give it a try more so.
Yeah, the other thing, it doesn't outstay its welcome either. Like, it's perfect length.
Really good length, and really good difficulty, actually. I know I fumbled around a little bit in terms of navigation, but I thought in terms of action, it does get tough. Like, I died quite a bit later on, and I'm glad about that.
And I think it helps, because some of those guards, without that shield in front of them, would be way easier to just take down. But they do have this kind of barrier that they put up in front of them.
And it's completely impervious, more or less. Once they see you and their shield is up, you have to retreat or attack them from behind no matter what, pretty much. And I don't think there's any power-up that outdoes that necessarily, which is good, because
things can get a little bit messy in terms of if there's loads of people around and you want to use your arm to grab somebody, because there's just a mass of fucking tentacles.
The arm control is a little finicky, and it never feels great, but it's sort of usable.
Yeah, you kind of fumble your way through it. Like, it does work eventually. You'll grab someone, you'll be able to flick the switch.
And again, maybe that was partially intentional, that it wasn't an arm that was completely easy to use.
Yes.
And if there's lots of enemies, it is very easy your health can just eviscerate so quickly that you don't even realize what was harming you sometimes. So you definitely need to just be a bit strategic about taking on enemies, but I like that aspect.
Definitely. Carrion, it's on Switch, and I think we both played the Game Pass version, but it from what I've heard from other people, the Switch version runs really nicely, looks very good.
Definitely pick it up if you got the money.
Yes, so check that out. It is very good. Okay, I think that's going to wrap us up for the first segment. Don't go anywhere. We will be back after the break with some of your emails. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second segment of today's show. It's time for some emails. We've got a few in, some good ones. Very happy with We put out the call, got some very good ones in, and I'm delighted. It's a favourite of mine is the email segment.
But the campaign never ends, Bally. Emails must continue to come into the inbox. This isn't, the battle isn't over. We can see the enemy cresting the hill, and the enemy is an empty inbox, and we do not want it to arrive. So please continue to send your forces, your reinforcements, as it were, to the battleground, and give us some emails.
Yes.
There you go.
We may have won the battle, but we have not won the war.
Absolutely.
Yes, please send them to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We would really appreciate it. Or you can send us a comment in our Discord server. Link to that server in the description. That would also be a great place to share something. But our first email is from Acerbis, who is from the UK, and says, "May peace favour your sword, Balin Mandragoran and Mandarb." Sorry, MBZ, best I could come up with.
I just want to say, really good effort here on the service's part to try and fit our names into the Wheel of Time. Because it doesn't quite work with my name because you pronounce my name Numan, not. Even though at school everyone said Naman, but that's not actually how you say my name.
I still say Naman.
No, you say Naman, which is better than most people.
I'm like a hybrid.
You're like a hybrid, and yeah, I that's fine. Versus most people who don't, and because at school I was just too embarrassed to correct people. These days I just tell people and I give them an acronym thing. The way I tell people how to say it this way is to think of the word numb as in my hand is numb, and then apostrophe N. So I've been doing that at my new job, which is helpful. It's just I figured it out a few years ago, and it's just helpful for telling people.
Have they all nailed it?
Yeah, close enough.
That's good.
So it's pretty good.
There's no Naemans or anything in there.
No, God, okay. Jesus, I rue the day. But yes, that's yes.
Also, I hope someone else has read the Wheel of Time and understands this reference, because I just don't want it to only apply to NBZ in the service. But anyway,
Bally, he is of course referring to the erstwhile King of Malkier, the man, the myth, the legend, death lighter than a feather, duty heavier than a mountain, Alan Mandragoran. But
obviously,
that's how it goes. Let's continue with Acerbis' question.
Acerbis says, "It's been a little while since I've sent an email. Here's a little game to help stave off the email drought. It's a video game podcast co-host version of the Newlywed game. Each of you should write down your answers to the questions truthfully yourself, and then on the podcast try to guess what the other person put to see how well you know each other. Does that make sense? Good, then let's begin. Right, first question. What game do you have the most hours in a lifetime?"
So basically we are choosing what each other would have answered, basically.
Shall I
to
go
test
first?
how well we know each other.
To guess your one?
Yeah, I'm sure you can get my one.
Yeah, your one's is quite easy. It's got to be Pokemon Diamond.
Because it is Pokemon Diamond.
You were a PokeTuber and spent a lot of time in that game.
I think it's 900 and something hours, which is combined between when we first got the game, which was just playing through the campaign, doing all that stuff. Then we discovered EV training and all that nonsense. We tried to do some shiny hunting for a while. I remember there was a brief period of shiny hunting time. And then we discovered competitive Pokemon, and the game was never the same again, basically. And then I spent all my time breeding, EV training, fighting people. Even when Platinum came out, I didn't move over. I just stayed on Diamond. So that's why that cartridge, above any other Pokemon game, has the most hours, and probably for the rest of my life, probably the game I put the most time in. I don't know. It depends on how many more years I play Overwatch for, and whether Overwatch 2 counts as a bleed over, because that's the only game I can see surpassing it, honestly. For you, Bally,
what is my one?
I feel like yours is probably also Pokemon Diamond, if you're honest with yourself. The other one I had down was Mario Kart Wii.
So I don't actually know the answer to this question, to be frank.
Yes, that's what I was wondering. I don't think you actually know.
It wouldn't be Pokemon Diamond, it would be Pokemon Pearl.
Right, okay, yes, all right, that's semantics.
I think that's a good shout. I think Mario Kart Wii is a decent shout. I'd go further back and suggest stuff like potentially even Mario Kart Double Dash. Or
the thing is, we didn't have our counts back then, right?
No,
and that's
exactly.
The issue is you don't actually know. It's more of a gut feeling of how much time you spent.
Yeah.
Back on the Wii channel, there was a period of time where you could go and have a look at a particular channel that showed you the hour count. So I think my highest was Guitar Hero 3 with 100 hours on Wii, out of all my Wii games. But I would guess.
Yeah, Guitar 3 is probably quite high. The other ones I was going to suggest are like Wind Waker. I've played through that game a few times, and then
yeah, but the game's not very long, you know, like that's barely scratching 100 hours.
I mean, maybe. And then I've also got like Animal Crossing Wild World, or
yeah, that's potentially high. True.
And then random stuff like Burnout 2, Point of Impact. Just times when I played games to have fun, play games to you know, jump into something easily accessible, non-story driven. So racing games, you know, Burnout 2 was one I played a ton on GameCube. Same like Mario Kart Double Dash. Games like Mario Golf, Mario Tennis on the N64. Like,
you see, I don't think any of these actually compare to Pokemon Pearl when you think about it. I think the only competing ones would be Mario Kart Wii, because you spent an ungodly amount of time playing online in that game, which is...
Yeah, I think Mario Kart Wii is probably number 2. And then number 3 might even be like Xenoblade Chronicles on 3DS, to be honest.
Jesus, man.
Because
need to play some more RPGs. Get those hour counts up.
True. Right, next question is, what game have you played all the way through to credits the most times? So I think yours is Metroid Fusion.
Yeah, so it's a toss-up.
And if it's not, it's Mega Man 2.
Yeah, I mean, I've written both of those down, so you nailed it. Because I'm not sure which I have played through more. Fusion, I think I've done 8 times, maybe. Mega Man 2, maybe 7 or 8. I don't know. I can't... The problem is that Mega Man 2 is much easier to just pick up and beat versus Fusion. Fusion takes more commitment. But... yes, they are definitely the ones I've beaten the most number of times in my life. Ori and the Blind Forest is probably catching up to them. I think I've beaten it 5 times now. I'm on my 6th probably with this hard mode playthrough. But yeah, for you, I was going to guess Wind Waker, because thing is, you don't play games again and again that much. So
I don't. It's very rare I do, and Wind Waker is probably the exception. And I've beaten it maybe like 3 or 4 times, like not a ton. And yeah, Wind Waker. Yeah. I can't think of anything else I might even have played multiple times, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, next question is, what non-game franchise would you most like to see adapted to a high-budget video game?
Any ideas, Mally?
Judging by the top of the segment, I'm going to go with Wheel of Time. But I'm sure you might have others.
No, I mean, it is a book franchise that I would love to have adapted. It is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, which I think would be... it's literally the perfect setting / magic powers / everything for a video game. It just maps so perfectly to a game that I don't understand how it hasn't been done yet. If you give that to like either Insomniac or Sucker Punch, like, you are golden. I would literally my dream game to be announced would be probably an Insomniac made Mistborn game. If that got announced, I think it would be the most excited I've ever been for a thing. It would be insane. So that is very much high up my list. For you, I was like, I don't know, some Disney thing probably.
I mean, yeah, I wrote something down. It's not... I guess it technically is Disney now.
Well, hey, there you go.
Shall I say what I put?
Yeah, go for it.
I just put like the Studio Ghibli Miyazaki films.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think they just create some really incredible settings that would work in a video game. Also, something like Spirited Away, I found the plot kind of all over the place, and I think something like that kind of, but it's still like a fantastical world. And I think that kind of fits something where the plot doesn't necessarily have to be completely grounded, and it can just be like a bit crazy. I think could work well in a video game setting. And then
I've got good news for you, Bally. A Studio Ghibli game already exists. It's called Ni no Kuni.
Yes, true. But it's almost like that game. You know, Kuni's almost gone back to this is JRPG, not tropes. Tropes is a strong word, but like it's like that's a kind of Studio Ghibli take on a JRPG.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Who is your
the other one I was going to say for you was just a high budget Star Wars prequel game with like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon.
I was going to say something Star Wars, but I guess Star Wars has been covered in lots of different ways, but yeah totally. Yeah. Who is your favorite video game character of all time? So I guessed for you some dude in Persona 4.
No. This is the problem, is I think that the cast of JRPGs tends to be stronger than the individuals.
Okay.
And so I love the cast of Xenoblade. I love the cast of Persona. But
they were the two in my mind, Persona 4 mainly, and Xenoblade.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I'd choose individual characters necessarily. It's because they just work so well as a group, as an ensemble. I put down Hector from Fire Emblem. I don't know, because he's just like, he's a cool character. I like him. It's not much depth to him. But to be honest, that's the thing with me, is like, I don't expect that much depth from video game characters for the most part, and the ones that do have it, like, I wouldn't say they're like my favorite or anything. And we were chatting about this before we came on and recorded, about we don't really have favorite video game characters. I don't know. I don't feel like I really connect with Mario. Like no. I don't feel have this yearning to understand Link and his inner struggle. I
mean, I put down a character. I don't feel strongly about it. I agree. Games are much more about the overall story, the dynamics between characters, the gameplay, the action, And
maybe it's because, like, you see yourself as the character so much that there's that disconnect that happens. I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, it's tricky. For you, I don't know. I said just because you're very into all the story-driven Sony games, I was like, Kratos, I guess, from God of War. I just put that down as one, but
that's pretty warm. I went with Yuri Lowenthal's Spider-Man.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Yeah.
As an individual character, I think I would prefer him to Kratos, but Kratos is definitely up there. And then out of the sort of Sony story-driven games, I have sort of said that Spider-Man PS4 is probably my top pick out of that bunch. So yeah,
cool.
Right, what save file would you be most gutted to lose?
You've been going first, Bally, so you go.
Okay, all right. I'm going to guess Pokemon Diamond, and if not that, probably Stardew Valley.
Man, those are good guesses I didn't think of at all, because the only thing I ever think of when it comes to losing save files is Smash Brothers. Because when I almost lost, the problem, Bally, is because I love Smash Brothers and I play it all the time, and losing the save file would be such a fucking pain in the arse to get all those goddamn characters back. Think about Smash Ultimate. How much of a fucking pain was it to unlock everybody? It's just tedium that I would just be really annoyed by. But you're right, Pokemon Diamond's probably higher than Smash Bros. I didn't really think about it in that way, but yes, that cartridge means a hell of a lot to me, so that would destroy me probably more than Smash.
DS cartridges aren't like Game Boy cartridges in that they have a battery in them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't think so. It'd be pretty bad if they did. So hopefully, because my Pokemon Gold is just done. You can't even save it anymore. The save battery's dead.
Yeah, I've gone back to like Game Boy Color games and Game Boy games, and they are done. Yep.
Yeah. I didn't have much imagination, so for you, I also said any Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers. I'd say Stardew Valley, maybe. Okay. But I don't feel strongly about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when we were like 10, it was the most important thing ever. And if we lost a save file, like, I literally remember crying to my parents thinking that I had lost my Smash Melee file because my GameCube...
You had some real rough GameCube memory card issues.
Yes, really bad. Like, Monkey Ball 2 would corrupt all the time. Star Fox Adventures corrupted once. Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was terrible. Sega games, basically. Adventure 2 Battle and Monkey Ball, whatever that was going on with the coding for memory cards... garbage, because I lost those save files more times than I could count, which was terrible for Sonic Adventure 2 because of the KO Garden stuff that we loved so much. And yeah, that was a bummer. But now I don't care, I guess. The thing is, as long as I finish the game and done everything I want in it, I don't really see a need to go back to a save file. And if I do go back to a game, it's probably me replaying it, so I don't think it matters.
I agree. I like... Say a game I sunk a ton of time into, like a Xenoblade or a Red Dead Redemption 2 or something. If I was going to go back and play them again, I'd want to start again. I don't have a massive desire to go in and...
Yeah. The only place where it would suck is if you're in the middle of playing it and you're 60 hours deep into a game. And then you lose it, then you're like, fuck. That's real bad.
Yeah, and I think we're both quite good at making a point of... We're playing a game and then beating a game. We don't really leave games halfway unless we're never going to come back to them.
I don't know, but I've got a big list for you. Xenoblade Chronicles X, Metro Prime 3.
Metro Prime 3, that's a good one. There's one more.
Majora's Mask on 3DS.
Well, that's a good one, yeah, but there's another one.
Gosh, what's the one that you've abandoned the most and have just left? I can't remember. There is one.
See, Majora's Mask, when I go back to it, I'm going to restart the game.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The other one was Three Houses, but...
Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yeah, look at this. All my favourite games, Xenoblade, Fire Emblem Valley, just shitting all over them. Doesn't care. Just going to leave them to die. Terrible.
I know. Right. Who would survive longer in the world of The Last of Us out of the two of us?
I'm going to say Bally, just because you're way fitter than I am, and so you would be able to run away from the zombies longer and stay alive. I don't know. I feel like I'm not that practical either.
You'd just be lost in the woods.
Yeah, I'm just an indoorsy person. The thing is, like, maybe I would just hide in a cupboard and stay alive while Bally would run outside and get chased by a zombie and die. But, like, it depends on the scenario, right? That's the issue.
I'd say my biggest downfall is I probably have too much faith in humankind, and I'd end up shot in the head by some other faction because my allegiance had misguided me or something. But if I did that strategy,
yeah. See, no, I would be the opposite. I would think everyone is garbage and know that everyone is going to be garbage, and so I'd act accordingly. So maybe I would survive.
Yeah, you're right. If I was like, right, what's my biggest asset? I can run marathons. I'm going to run up that hill and away from all these people. Then you're right. I might survive a bit longer.
Yeah. So that was what I thought.
I said me as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, we both are on the same page then.
Which of you is better at Smash Brothers?
I think that as of recent times, it's me, and I think you picked me as well. But I don't know what your ego is like, Bally. I don't know what your ego is like.
I said a tie. Here's the thing. I agree. We entered the Smash Brothers tournament together recently, and I was drawn against you. And I was Yoshi.
With some bullshit Yoshi tactics, which I did not fall to.
You see, the failure in my plan was I think I was more keen on killing you with Yoshi's egg move than I was on...
You just wanted to dunk on me in front of everybody.
Right, I was more keen on that than actually trying to win the match. And that maybe was my downfall. So I would argue that was maybe not the best characterization of our current skills.
Yes.
I would also argue that if we did 10 6 versus 6, what's that mode? 5 versus 5, 6 versus... What's it called?
Yeah, Squad Strike.
Squad Strike. I think if we did 10 Squad Strikes in a row, and every time we were allowed to pick whoever we want, no matter how many times it repeated or not, I'm confident I would win that.
Really?
I think if I was forced to move outside of my 6 most comfortable characters, I'd struggle. But I think if I was allowed to use my top 6 and then rotate in like my next top 4 or so, just to mix it up a little bit, I reckon I could take you then.
See, this is the thing. We've got to test this theory now. Next time, we've got to do 10 Squad Strikes back to back and see who comes out on top. Cool. Last one. Who's better at Apex Legends?
I said a tie for this one as well.
Yeah, I mean...
Because basically we never seem to have a good day at the same time necessarily.
No.
Well, maybe we have, but normally one of us is like on form killing everyone and the other person is barely making contact and vice versa. But
true. I was going to say on PS4, I would maybe tip it to you, but if I'm playing on PC, it's me.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that cross-play where...
Yes.
You can get out your PC skills and...
Absolutely. Don't worry. 360 no-scopes coming your way, baby. Love it. It's going to be great. Also, we just got to smash some Switch noobs is what we've got to do. Just get on Switch.
Smash some Switch noobs.
Sounds good to me.
Hopefully no listeners, but...
Yeah. Well, yeah, who knows? Great. Well, that was a fun question. Thanks, Acerbis.
Yes, thanks very much, Acerbis. Our next question is from Duncan, who's from Pembrokeshire in Wales. Hi guys, thanks as always for your balanced views and always interesting content. I wanted to discuss the recent mini direct and the importance, but also the pitfalls of marketing for Nintendo and third parties on Switch. I saw some questions on why these announcements and trailers weren't just dropped on YouTube, but while I get that this mini direct wasn't for everyone, this format does serve to bring huge attention to these announcements. Atlus were extremely prolific on the DS and 3DS, and we've so far seen very little from them. While we've had plenty of third-party support from indie developers and some AAA ports, Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a rare significant new third-party exclusive on Switch, and of course they needed to feature this in a direct. Persona 5 was a huge deal on PlayStation, and there is potential for this game to be the Switch's equivalent. Showing it any other way wouldn't have done the job. The unfortunate thing is that with so much public attention and expectation for this Direct, the game is potentially branded as a disappointment even before we've seen any gameplay footage. I guess my discussion point is around the expectations on Nintendo and the Direct format. These are primarily marketing strategies, not entertainment, and ultimately for Nintendo's own benefit. But it's increasingly felt that if they don't end the Direct with that game, then it's proclaimed a massive disappointment. How does a company like Nintendo both drum up interest for a game that may not be for everyone but could be huge with the right marketing, while also avoiding said game becoming a target for non-fans' frustration? Sadly, maybe I need to make it clear that I'm not a Shin Megami Tensei or Atlas fanboy. I've never played an SMT game before, not even Persona, but I went straight away from this Direct and bought SMT 4 on 3DS and started it this week. It's tough, but I'm enjoying the themes and the challenge. I'm seriously pumped for 5 now and can't wait to check out 3 beforehand. I guess this marketing worked for me. Thanks again, Duncan.
Cool. Very interesting, because I think he brings up a point that I find a lot of people don't tend to understand with major events like this, and I think it's part of the importance of E3 and why it's kind of a bummer that we don't have that centralized kind of place anymore. Is part of the reason E3 works so well is everyone would be watching the same time. Everyone would be tuning in and being like, it's PlayStation, it's Xbox, it's Nintendo, we're going to watch all of them no matter what's shown, because people are drawn there by the big names, right? People are drawn there by, oh, The Last Guardian's getting re-announced, or there's Zelda Breath of the Wild. And what this stealthily does is that it injects all these other games into people's eyeballs when otherwise they wouldn't click on it, right? If a trailer for SMT5 dropped on YouTube and you're not someone who's into SMT, you're not going to click that. It's going to scroll past your feed. You're never going to see it. Versus SMT5 trailer in a Nintendo Direct that people are watching, by proxy, because you're interested in Nintendo Directs, you're going to be exposed to that, and therefore you know about it, right? It expands the audience for it. It makes it so that people understand what it is. You're almost a captive audience, like you're sitting there and you're watching anyway, so you're just going to watch it, right? And I think that has worked for lots of games in the past, whether it be independent stuff at big E3 stages, or even like niche Japanese things. It just makes the audience for them much larger, and I think that's only a good thing, right? Overall, and how it works. But how do you feel about Nintendo's approach to Directs at the moment? There was a quote recently, I think, from Furukawa saying, hey, Directs are not necessarily the only way that we can do stuff anymore, and we may have to think of a new format and things like that.
We can also tweet.
Yes, we can just randomly on a Wednesday put out an Origami King trailer. Which, again, like, I feel like that game definitely got its spotlight from that announcement and people knew about it, but that's only because it's a Mario product, right? Like, it was going to get the spotlight anyway, versus Atlas can't go out there and do that and get as wide an audience just going on Twitter and dropping an SMT5 trailer.
No.
So yeah, how do you feel about the current state of Directs? How do you think Nintendo's messaged things like this? And I guess it's like a larger question as well, because they had the live stream when they announced fucking Bakugan and people were mad about that. Like, how do you feel about fan expectation? We talked about this a little bit, but in the current era of Nintendo Directs.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I completely agree with your reasoning as to why they do it, and you're right. People, the second it's a Direct with unknowns in it, which this was, people are watching it in their hundreds of thousands, and eyes are being brought to games that are very niche, like an SMT. Like, it is still a very niche JRPG, and Nintendo will be very interested that more people see that game in case they like other RPGs and want to try this one out, and that is very important to them. I think where it's falling flat is that there have been, and I do think people's expectations have gotten higher and higher and higher, and the bar is tougher to beat every time. But I think where it's fallen flat is there have been a number of Directs that just don't have many big announcements. And I think it is very tempting. And I think Nintendo will have very good statistics on like the views on the Directs, obviously, and be like, hey, we've got these games to show off, rather than think too much about how they'll be received. They might just think, well, we've agreed with our third-party developers that they need to be seen, so we might as well just put them out. And I guess we've not got any first-party stuff to maybe top and tail those announcements with and get people excited. So I guess we'll put it out anyway. And I think that is probably in the long term a very grave mistake for Nintendo, where I do think it is important that directs maintain they've almost got like this aura in the games, and they certainly did in terms of like the news announcement game industry. Nintendo Directs are like the number one thing people are hyped for, generally speaking. Obviously PlayStation do their things, Microsoft also do stuff, but I do think generally speaking Nintendo, it's the most hype regardless of like your gaming tribe necessarily. And I think that Nintendo Directs are at their strongest when they are top and tailed with big Nintendo, often first party announcements. And I think the more that Nintendo do any form of Direct, whether it's 10 minutes or half an hour or 45 minutes, the more they do of those where they don't top and tail it with big announcements, I think people will lose faith. I don't think people will stop watching. I think people that tweet about how awful that Direct was are going to watch every single Direct when it drops, no matter what. And I don't think that's necessarily an issue for Nintendo. I think people are always going to come back for Direct. I just think people will lose a lot of faith and hope in what comes in Directs. And in that sense, I think Nintendo's at its strongest when they do the Directs less often. So one in summer, arguably one at the start of the year, and maybe one autumn. I think my ideal would be to have 3 a year, and you know that pretty much no matter what, there's going to be big announcements in every one. I think what's really hurting Nintendo is the frequency, and especially like this summer, which has just been weird and in many ways a bit of a write-off, mainly because of COVID-19, but maybe for other reasons as well. I just think that for them, 3 a year would be the optimum. And when they do more than that, it's hard to keep them as top tier.
Yeah, I push back on that a little just because they did message this as this is a mini thing. It's less than 10 minutes long. And maybe, they said, hey, we're going to do announcements on things that have already been announced from our third party partners. And so that... I'd
argue then don't call it Direct.
Yeah, sure, right.
They know that word Direct is like, whoa, it could be Metroid Prime 4. They know that's got like connotations to it.
Yeah, right. Like even a Direct hype. Mini still has the word Direct in it, so it creates certain expectations.
Yeah, and I think mini Directs in the past have had some pretty big announcements, which makes
sometimes they do,
that
yes.
an issue. Yeah,
which is the hard part, right? Because you can end a mini Direct with Dark Souls on Switch, which isn't huge, but like that's kind of significant.
Yeah.
And like it depends on the audience, right? Because for a lot of people, so many people have been waiting for SMT5 for years because they literally announced it at, I think, the January Switch presentation event. And they had that weird trailer that was like showing all the different demons and things like that. And so there's been literally zero word from Atlas about what was going on with it. So that's great for fans. Obviously, they're doing a remake of SMT3. So that's a way for people to jump on board if they wanted to get in on the franchise early before the new game comes out. But yeah, it's for me, the current state of events makes sense because Nintendo, obviously a Japanese company, but like they are a black box. Nobody knows what they work on. They are so goddamn secretive. And so when you are forced into a scenario where your developers have to work from home and you have to allow them access to things and stuff like that, it feels like there is just a mountain of red tape that they have to get through in order for people to even get work done, because they are so secretive and they don't want anything getting out to the public. So it's a problem when you have to use online infrastructure in order to work from home. It just causes pipeline issues. It means that games don't get the trailers they need when they need to, or they don't get the development when they need to, and so things keep getting pushed back. And it seems like maybe this year wasn't going to be amazing for Nintendo anyway, right? Like,
yeah, I would say based on what we've had in the last few months, and there was probably very good reasons why that Direct had to be the way it was, and there's very good reasons why Paper Mario had to come out when it was. I do think you open with Shin Megami Tensei, you have the fluff in between, and you close with Paper Mario, and that could have been a Direct. Yeah, and that maybe they didn't want to brand that as Nintendo's Summer Direct. This is our E3 equivalent, because I do think that would have still been a very weak weak source in comparison to previous E3s, but I think that would have and that could have maybe been 20 minutes, half an hour, who knows. But like, I think that could have just been a stronger package at some point in the summer. And maybe they have one to come, and I can eat my words, but like, maybe that could have just been slightly better, where you got SMT that's a bit more niche, and then you got Mario at the end, which is a bit more mainstream, and you kind of pleased two aspects of fans. Because I think that some of their strongest directs have had some pretty niche stuff in it as well, but then they also can bring out, you know, bigger first party guns, which Paper Mario is maybe borderline, you know.
Yes. I think that the issue here and what has happened is, because of COVID, because it's just thrown things just completely off the rails, they were going to have a March/April direct, or February, or whatever you want to call it, that would have announced Paper Mario, that may have done this SMT tease, that may have done a Smash Brothers thing, right? And all those things together could have made for a solid direct leading into an E3 where they show off the 3D Mario rumored collection and things like that. Maybe show an update on Bayonetta 3. Maybe give us a bit more details on Breath of the Wild 2. Potentially even announce an Odyssey sequel. But all those plans were scuppered. And as a result, they didn't have the resources to get enough footage together, to get enough trailers together to make that direct work. And that's why you see Paper Mario just dropping as a random trailer. And then the SMT stuff happens later in this mini direct. And we're kind of in a place where, I would say similar to Xbox. We were talking about this on our Patreon show, but like how Microsoft kind of just announce things when they're ready. And they're like, we were talking about how Hellblade and Everwild could have made such a bigger impact had Microsoft held them back for this big event and not announced them last year. But that doesn't seem to be their MO. They're just kind of like, well, they're gonna get announced, right? Like, do we really need a big pop? Because you can play these games on Game Pass, etc., etc. Do Nintendo feel like, well, like it's unfortunate that we can't do directs, but how much? Riddle me this, Malik. How much do you think directs have an impact on video game sales? And is that significant to the point where Nintendo, looking at them now, don't necessarily see them as relevant? Because they're great for internet hype. They're fantastic for that and buzz. But in the end, do you think Animal Crossing sold more units because there was a direct on it?
It's a difficult question. I think there are exceptions where internet hype can be linked to sales. And I think those exceptions are when stuff goes super viral and it might have started in a direct. So I would argue potentially something like that Breath of the Wild trailer had the potential to increase sales because it was just the most beautiful trailer and might have reached a wider audience. I think that's the very rare circumstance where something like that might happen. Or say a Mario Kart trailer got dropped inside a Nintendo Direct. I think there's a few games that are top tier echelon of mainstream appeal that would generate a lot of excitement. Now, I do agree that those same trailers could probably generate near to the same excitement to a mainstream audience just by dropping them on Twitter. But yeah. So I agree. I don't think directs necessarily impact sales too much, but I think that having a loyal fan base like Nintendo fans often are, and keeping them on your good side and happy about the content you're putting out, I think generally speaking is a good thing in terms of sales generally, although I don't think it probably has a huge impact. I think it's still a smaller impact than probably many people would expect.
Yeah, it definitely, I think with the smaller titles is where it makes the difference. For example, Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was getting a lot of buzz anyway, but I think it being in a direct just brings it much more to the forefront, which means that then people know about it, which means that when the Twitter craziness happens with it, it's as a result of people having bought it off the back of seeing it in a Nintendo Direct, right? Yeah. Like you have that small audience who buys it straight away because they've seen it in a Direct. Then that then expands their audience to other people who see the GIFs, who see the videos, who see it and decide, oh, this seems fun, I'm going to download this. Whereas it probably matters less with the big guns, for sure.
I posed a question on Twitter in a poll. I don't know if you saw this, MBZ.
I don't know. No, I don't. Maybe I did.
I said, what's Nintendo's game plan for the remainder of 2020? How many first-party games are we going to see come out before the end of the year? And you could pick 0, 1, 2, or 3 plus. And 42% of my Twitter followers said that 2 games would come out by the end of 2020 that are first party. 39% said 1, 9.1% said 0, and 9.1% also said 3+. Where do you fall on this conundrum?
I think I voted for 3+, is what I voted for, because I'm thinking of Mario Collection. That counts as multiple games, right? Maybe.
Yeah. I'd count that as 1, but sure.
Yeah. And then like they've got to have some Pokemon bullshit, right? Even if you count the DLC, that's maybe a bit of a...
As a stretch, but it could be something like Pokemon Snap, who knows?
Right, I don't think that is coming out this year. And hey, like, talking about that, right? Like, what if that was in a Direct as well? Like, if we start to collate all of this evidence of fractured announcements that could have been in Nintendo Directs, we're looking at a pretty good Direct, right? Like, Pokemon Snap plus Paper Mario in the same Direct.
It would have been a Direct where I would be hyped for Pokemon Snap and say, I respect that Direct. I know it appeals to people. It doesn't appeal to me personally, but you know what? That was a good, solid Direct. Yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, and then what else is coming out, right? Who knows? Some smaller stuff, maybe. Another Box Boy. Who knows? That franchise continues.
Yeah, I think they've got 1 or 2 more coming this year. I think one of those will be quite big and probably will be the Mario Collection. And then I think there'll be something else first party, but considerably smaller. And I think when you step back from the year and think Animal Crossing, Paper Mario, and potentially 1 or 2 more games come out in the year 2020, I think in a year with a global pandemic, that's not awful, to be honest. So
yeah.
I think we'll step back from this year and think it was a bit muddled, it was weird, but the actual number of quality games that came at the end wasn't awful. And hey, were any of you around in the Wii U days?
Yeah.
But like, it's not all bad.
Did Nintendo do a good job of selling you on SMT at all in any way, Bally?
No, but
okay.
It's not my style of game.
Yeah.
I might try Persona and love it and then be interested, but I'm nowhere near that stage yet.
Yeah, I think my problem with Shin Megami Tensei, like, I respect it a whole ton. It seems very cool for the people who like it. What I've heard about it is it's basically like a really difficult JRPG. And if you know me, you know I don't go to JRPGs for combat at all. Like, that is not why I'm there. The reason Persona is a thing I like is because of its characters, its world, its storytelling. And I haven't heard anything about SMT's storytelling or characters that makes me want to care about it. And it's also very, like, kind of post-apocalyptic world. It's not really my vibe. So I respect it a whole lot, and I know a lot about it, like just third hand from hearing people talk about it on podcasts and the such. But yeah, it's not something I'm going to dive straight into. Maybe one day I'll check one of them out, but maybe it could be SMT5. It depends on how they handle that game, right? Like make it more accessible, difficulty levels and things like that to make it a bit more of a cool game for me to check out.
I was saying off mic that because you've played quite a lot of JRPGs, MBZ, I decided that the definition of what was a niche JRPG was something that you hadn't played, and that if you'd played it, then it was a bit more mainstream. That was my broad definition.
Okay. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I feel like there's definitely some... Maybe if I know about it, then it's not necessarily...
I don't think there's any top-tier JRPGs left, necessarily, that you've not at least tried, other than maybe...
No, I don't think you understand the scope and breadth of JRPGs, Bally.
I'm talking top tier. Top tier.
That's a very small list,
top
right?
Tier.
That's like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Pokemon, Persona, right? Like that's pretty much, everyone's played one of those.
I guess that is the toppest of the top tier.
Yeah,
I would say like something like Secret of Mana, which I know you've not tried yet, but
that's pretty well known. That was a pretty big Super Nintendo game. I know what you mean.
I'm saying that's the only exception I can think of, but
sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Cool.
Thank you very much for your question, Duncan. That was a very good one, especially with the news of that strange little direct thing that it was. But yeah, if you would like to send in an email to the show, please send it into ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com, or post a comment in our Discord server. Link to that in the description. We would really appreciate it. But that's all we've got time for on the second segment of today's show. Join us after the break for part 3.
Alright everyone, welcome back after the break. We're back here now for everyone's favourite segment, the Jukebox. I don't know why my voice went like that.
It's quite a game showy segment.
It kind of,
an Australian game show host, right?
Hello, it's me, NBZ. I'm here for the Jukebox. Don't you love it? I love it. Here's our contestants, myself and Bally. It's great. Yes, sometimes I just break out into voices. I don't know why. It just kind of happens. But hey, here we are. We're ready to do the Jukebox. It's been a little while. Bally, give us a refresher on what it is, how it works.
The Jukebox is one of us I went all Australia, testing the other.
We're testing each other with some kangaroo over here. Love it. Bit of crocodile.
One of us testing the other on what game did this song come from.
Right.
And the game has to be a Nintendo system, and it has to be a game that the other person has played. So the person answering the question has to have played the game.
Yes.
We're also not allowed to repeat any games that have been used on the Jukebox before. And this is the 10th time that we have done a Jukebox.
Wow.
So none of the games that have been done previously in any Jukebox will be included. So MBZ, I warn you to open up that document if you are unsure of what has been said and not said before.
That is a good point, well made. I think I will do that just so that I have a bit of a frame of reference.
Yes.
Because we've used a bunch of different games on this before.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, play along at home. Feel free to guess what game the song comes from, and then let us know your scores in the Discord or through email or whatever, how you want to contact us, tweet us, tell us how well you did on the Jukebox. Let us know. Let's do the first song, Bally.
Okay.
Bally, from the very first half a second, I knew what it was. It was seared into my very soul. This is, of course, from Celeste. And yes. I don't know what... I think it's like the second level where you go through the star blocks, and then like after you activate them, it like starts a bit more of a beat, and like the rhythm comes in.
The end of the song is very beaty, and I definitely didn't want to include that part. I thought you would get this. I think this is on definitely the easier side. This song is called Resurrections.
Yes.
But yeah, if you think I'm going easy on you today, you might be in for a nasty surprise.
See, I went easy on you last time because I was like, hey, let's hang out and play some good music, basically.
That's not how this segment works.
Oh, I mean, sometimes it can. I was hoping that, if I was nice to you last time, you'd be nice to me this time.
Well, I gave you a nice, easy start.
That's a nice start. And talking about the music of Celeste just for a quick second is, I think it's just superb soundtrack on so many levels, but one of the things that games can do so well is that idea of leitmotif, and Xenoblade 2 does it extraordinarily well. There's loads of games that do it in terms of like bringing certain themes up relevant to different moments and things, and like weaving different versions of the same sound throughout a soundtrack.
Yes.
And
which makes this game very hard because they keep repeating the same damn song.
Lena Raine, who is the composer for Celeste, does a tremendous job with that because it is these kind of evoking ideas and like motifs repeat constantly throughout the soundtrack, and so there is a kind of consistency to it, even though it does have a lot of variety as well. Like there's some low chill beats versus some much more up tempo stuff later on.
I find that, and I could have this the wrong way round, I find that the more melancholic, like piano, less synthy stuff almost represents like Battling, and then the more like bopping, bouncing, synthy stuff, which a lot of these tunes have, is more like Madeline. Now it could be the other way round, but I just get this impression that they kind of represent the whole sort of two sides thing.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the melancholy stuff definitely works in terms of how Madeline sees herself up to a certain point, and then I'm sure the music kind of crescendos and like changes. That's the thing with soundtracks, man. They tell a story all on their own. Music is a wonderful thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous soundtrack. Very, very, very good. I like it a lot.
Are you ready for song 2?
Yeah, let's do it. Bally, you're doing me dirty here. Not really. I definitely know this. I 100% know this. This is a video game I've played, I feel like really recently, or maybe not. It's definitely a Switch indie. It's definitely an artsy style game. And I think it's Grease. That's what it's calling to me. That's the thing that came into my mind when it first started playing. I know you haven't played Grease and you plan to play Grease, but I think it's from Grease, and I feel like the vocal stuff kind of comes in like either the beginning or the end of that game. There's like a kind of way in which it weaves together, but I also am not 100% certain that it is that. So I'm going to say that as my guess, but I also feel like I'm missing a trick here.
So that's your final answer, Grease.
Yes.
That is correct.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. It's because you usually tend to go for stuff that you've also played. And so it's rare that you'll go for a game that only I've played, which is fun.
Yeah, I know that you like this game quite a bit, and I own it, and it's ready to go. And one thing you liked about it was the soundtrack, and I just thought, I'll look that up. And I think this is just called like Grease Part 1. I don't know if they've got named songs. I think it is like maybe one longer running thing. But yeah, I thought, wow, this sounds great. I'll put this in regardless of how hard it is. I thought this might be on the easier side.
Yeah, like it definitely has that vibe to it that kind of stood out to me. But then I was also like, the thing that's tripping me up is like Bally never plays me songs from games he hasn't played as well. So that's where you got me, Bally. You got me a little bit. But yeah, Grease is really good. I think for me, one of the things it does exceptionally well is its sound design. Like the little patter of feet and stuff like that is excellent, and it has just a gorgeous style to it that evokes like watercolor aesthetics, and just the way it plays with shape really and color is beautiful, and yeah, a really good soundtrack as well. I wouldn't say that it's not the type of soundtrack that you go out and listen to on Spotify, right? Or maybe it is if you want to have like a work playlist or something, like kind of background music. I'd say Journey is kind of good in that way, and this game is very Journey in a lot of senses. Like it has kind of evokes a lot of the same feelings and things like that, but it's a great game, and much more of a video game than I expected when I first played it, because I thought, oh, this is just going to be a walking simulator, but there's a bunch of platforming in it that's actually pretty good and enjoyable, and power-ups and stuff, which definitely didn't think that was the case before I played it.
And it's like a 3-hour game, right? Or
I think it took a bit longer. I think it was more close to the 4 to 5 hour, but a really great experience. Runs excellently on Switch. I played the Switch version. It's beautiful. It's definitely very worthwhile going and checking out. Nice. Good pick.
Excellent. Are you ready for song 3?
Let's do it. Very chill vibes coming off that song. Very lo-fi beats. So let's walk through my thought process. First of all, I thought it's got a little bit of artifacting in the sound. So I was like, is this like a weird Cuphead song that I haven't heard before? But then it continued. I was like, no, it can't be, unless it's some weird like. Cuphead's much more upbeat, even though it does have kind of oldie sounding tunes going on there sometimes. And then I was like, this is like chill JRPG town vibes. And I was looking at the list, I'm like, we haven't used Octopath Traveler yet. Is this some weird deep cut Octopath Traveler song that doesn't actually seem that good? Because like, if this was in the Octopath Traveler soundtrack, I would think less of Octopath Traveler, because every song on that soundtrack is a banger. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it's just lessening my perspective on Octopath even further. And I don't really have another good guess. Like I was getting like, you know that game The Tourist that just came out on Game Pass that was on Switch for a while? For some reason I was thinking of that, and I've not even played that, so I don't know why, but that evoked some of those vibes that game kind of looks like it gives off.
Are you wanting a clue?
I mean, like, minor clue, maybe, if you can provide one.
You were slightly warmer with the Cuphead retro thing.
Okay. Huh. So what other games evoke a kind of classic vibe / style? I feel Kentucky Route Zero, maybe? Maybe that's the thing that I'm feeling. That kind of fits with it. It doesn't see. I mean, Kentucky Route Zero.
Shall I give you another clue?
Sure. I feel like I'm wrong in that case.
I think this game's style has a lot that I felt was quite like Kentucky Route Zero in a weird way, but it's not Kentucky Route Zero.
Oh dear. Oh boy. This is tricky. There's definitely like. There is like a chill bar kind of vibe to it. I was thinking of Gunman Clive just because it's got like a weird sepia tone thing, but the music of that is not the same as this at all.
Gunman Clive is kind of warmish as well in a weird way.
Oh, for God's sake, Bally! I'm just
somewhere between Gunman Clive and Kentucky Route Zero are the vibes of this game.
Jesus. Well, that's. A real hard.
That's why I felt I could give you this clue, because it was a bit vague.
Okay, fair enough. Man, I'm kind of stumped, to be honest with you. Yeah, I can't really think of anything, so I'm gonna pass and say you got me with this one, Bally.
All right, the game is SteamWorld Dig 2.
Oh, weird.
So
okay.
SteamWorld goes for like this almost classical Art Deco kind of rusty, jazzy, steampunk thing. And I'm not saying that Kentucky Route Zero is steampunk or anything, but it's got like this kind of, I haven't got the right words to describe this, to be honest, but it's got like this edgy Western Americana.
Yeah. I know what you mean. The thing with SteamWorld 2 was that town theme is so good that it's the only thing I remember from that game. The rest of the soundtrack just went out of my brain.
Yeah, and I thought about that when I was like, that's a gimme. He's not getting a gimme.
Fair enough.
This is the Oasis.
Okay.
So it's like you discover some people underground and then...
Yes. That makes sense. Yeah, I like this game a lot. It's one of those games that everyone likes it way more than we do, I think. And it's a good game. It's great. But I don't think I just have that same adoration for it. And I feel like people these days, when you ask them about the best Switch games, it doesn't really come up anymore like it used to. And that was early on in the life cycle. People were like, SteamWorld Dig 2, gotta play it. But I feel like it's been eclipsed by a lot of other indies, for me especially. Even though it's very good, and I would recommend if you haven't played it, play it, because it's a lot of fun.
I think it was very impressive how much people were talking about it, considering it came out near the end of 2017, which was just this most ridiculous year for games generally, but especially Switch, and it really stood out. I guess it was one of the earlier indie darlings on the Switch, so I guess it's before like Celeste, Stardew Valley, Wargroove.
Yes.
Can't think of the other, Hollow Knight and stuff. Well, that came in 2018 on Switch.
Golf Story came out before it.
Golf Story
was an early one. But yeah, SteamWorld Dig 2, really good game. And yeah, I do think that the SteamWorld games, as generally people know them, but some of the individual ones maybe get forgotten by people when they're talking about their favorite stuff on systems and the like. So. But yeah, cool. That was a hard one. You got me. I was so close, but not really, I don't think, to be honest. Honestly, I don't think I would have got that answer. So
I liked your thought process for it. It was interesting.
Yeah, I went on a walk. And also, it's okay. Octopath Traveler still has the greatest soundtrack, so it's fine.
Yes, we're not going to burn Octopath Traveler on a bad song.
I'm waiting one day, Bally, for you to roll up in here with an Octopath Traveler song, and for me to not know that it's an Octopath Traveler song.
You'll be like, that was a banging tune. It must be Octopath Traveler.
Yeah, exactly. All right, number 4, right?
Yes, song number 4.
Bally, I might put me reacting to that song at the end as an outtake, because I was like, I know this, what the fuck? It's just, it wasn't getting through to my brain. But I'm like, I have heard this recently, I've definitely played this recently, and I was like scrolling through my what I've played this year list, and just panic, and then the wolf sounds come in, I'm like, oh, I think I know what it is. So I'm pretty sure this is Night in the Woods. Right?
Is that your final answer?
Yes, please.
That is incorrect.
No! What the fuck is this? Wait a second, the wolf sounds. No, I've got this. No, I definitely have this. It's Shit, the wolf. For some reason, I thought that was Night in the Woods.
Do you want another clue?
Oh, yes, come on. I feel like I know this.
This game came out last year.
Oh, that's why it's in my brain. Oh,
it's a game I've not played.
Oh, good. Yes, I know. That's why I was like, maybe this is the one that you haven't. Fuck. Balls.
I really liked that Night in the Woods guess, though.
Yes. Oh, I was like, they're like, I was like, wait a second, was that cut? No, it's kind of got a similar vibe, but not quite. Oh my goodness. Oh,
I would say this song, from what the research I did, doesn't sound much like the other songs in that game.
Okay, that makes sense. This is going to drive me up the fucking wall.
One more clue?
Sure.
Think the UK.
Oh shit, I know what it is. Fuck, that's why the wolves. Fuck, I'm an idiot. It's Pokemon Sword and Shield, Bally.
It is Pokemon Sword and Shield.
God damn it. I was like, I know this so
It's a
clearly.
Weird song. So it's called Slumbering Weald, and Weald is spelled Weald. And the Weald, do you know what the Weald is?
It's like a wreath, right? A weald is like a wreath type deal.
It might
I'm pretty sure. Yes.
It's an area of the UK as well, though.
Oh, okay. That's fun.
It's between the North and South Downs and crosses the counties of Hampshire, Surrey, and Sussex and Kent. And then the song is called, if I get it back up, it is called Slumbering Weald. And I believe it's like a forest area early on in the game.
Yes, it is. It's kind of right next to your hometown, but also it is the home of the two legendaries of the game, which, as you probably are aware of, are just big dogs, basically. Right. They're wolves. So the howls are them basically singing, and they're singing in the woods, and eventually you find them, and you also find two of the stupidest characters ever created in video games. Swordwood and Shieldbert, I believe, are their names, and their hair are in the shape of a fucking sword and a shield, and I swear to God, Bally, they are the stupidest fucking characters I have ever seen in my life. No word of a lie.
You had a pretty good time with Sword and Shield.
And specifically, the soundtrack is so good. Like, I am shocked by how good the soundtrack for Sword and Shield is. It is by far my favorite Pokemon soundtrack. Has like great Scottish vibes in terms of some of the open areas. They've got some bagpipes in there. It's tremendous. I'm a huge fan of that soundtrack. I think it is great. There's some stinkers, there always are, but you know, the thing with Pokemon is, for so many years, it just all sounds the same. And there's variation on the battle theme, and there's variation here and there. But for the first time in a long time, I think they kind of went a bit outside the box, and it worked tremendously. So yeah. If you're going to play it for the soundtrack alone, then I wouldn't put it past you, you know? Like, it's pretty good. Just bopping along to a lot of these tunes. I like them. That Night in the Woods, though, God. I think it's because the animal, like the wolf, my brain made a snap connection, and it was the wrong connection. But I don't know, there's kind of vibes in there that sound Night in the Woods-esque to me, maybe. Maybe I'm misremembering Night in the Woods soundtrack.
Yeah, I liked your summary, but then I thought, when I reveal this to him, he's going to... Because it's so far from Night in the Woods.
It's so far. And yet, weirdly kind of close, because animals, Pokemon...
Because animals, yes.
Yeah.
Animals.
Anyway, that I don't know if I count as getting that correct, because you did steer me in a direction, but...
Oh yeah, I said final answer. You gave me an answer, and it was wrong, so I'm afraid it is incorrect. But
fair enough.
Are you ready for song 5? This is to balance the books in a 3-2, one way or the other.
Okay, cool. I'm down for it. Let's listen. Bally, you have a certain way of like getting me to panic and like get my brain being like, I know what this is, but I can't bring it to what the actual game is it's from.
That's a joy with this game. That's what I was going for when I do like a hard one. I'm like, it's got to be within reach, but I want it to be dangling that carrot. You know, you're not quite sure, but it's almost there. You know,
it's on the tip of your tongue.
Joy.
Like you feel, you can sense yourself inside the game, but you don't know where you are. You just hear the song and you think. This one has a weird vibe, I think, for what this game is. If I'm correct in the game, I don't even know if I'm correct. Am I correct in that you haven't played this game?
I'm not giving away these clues. This is tied 2-2. I'm not giving away clues on this. You need to win this fair and square.
I'm pretty sure you haven't played this game, and I'm gonna say that this. Oh no! Wait a second. Oh god! Now my brain is rebelling against me.
Speak your mind. What are you thinking? I'm not going to give away clues.
I don't know. But now I'm second guessing myself. I don't actually think my answer.
Did I say something that made you second guess yourself?
No, but I was just replaying the song in my mind, and I was like, wait, no, it isn't quite that. So I don't think it is this anymore. So I'm coming from two trains of thought here. One train of thought is kind of Phoenix Wright vibes. The other train of thought is Dragon Quest vibes, and I'm kind of between the two. I don't know which to go with. There's so many Phoenix Wright games to choose from, so that I wouldn't think you would go with a weird.
Okay. I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
It's not Phoenix Wright or Dragon Quest.
Okay, good.
Well, I want you to get a bit closer than that before.
Yeah, I was pretty sure. I was pretty sure it wasn't Dragon Quest, but I was like, maybe it is Dragon Quest 11, but I don't think it is, because then I replayed it in my head and it went on a different track. But I definitely played this relatively recently, and it is. Wait a second, fuck! It's Final Fantasy VI. That's my final answer.
That's your final answer?
No, it's Chrono Trigger. That's my final answer.
Sorry, but it's Chrono Trigger's your final answer.
Fuck. It's Chrono Trigger's my final answer.
Is Chrono Trigger your final answer?
Yes, lock it in. Fuck, I don't know.
Chrono Trigger is incorrect.
Fuck! It's Final Fantasy VI! Don't tell me it's Final Fantasy VI, I'm going to lose my mind.
It's Final Fantasy VI.
Fuck my life! I hate myself, Bally. I hate myself. You juked me. You juked me because I knew it was Final Fantasy VI, but then I was like, wait a second, Bally just played Chrono Trigger.
I know. That is exactly my thought process, and I'm dastardly and evil because
you're an asshole.
I've just played Chrono Trigger. I'm going to throw in a Chrono Trigger song, and then I thought, wait, what if I... The soundtrack is quite similar in many ways.
Is that Figueroa Castle? Is that what that is? No, I don't think it is. Is it? No.
I think you should be able to get it if you think about the song. So it's got this.
It's not Shadow's theme because that's. It
is a person's theme.
Is it Edgar's theme?
No, I think
it's
know
kind of got a royal.
Theme. That's like I can't even say.
Edgar's theme is Figueroa Castle, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think.
Okay, is it is it Sabin? No, is it Cyan? It's Cyan. It's Cyan.
It's Cyan. So yes. It's got like this East Asian tone to it at the start, and then like this imperial theme kind of comes in. That's more traditionally like a European sound, fantasy sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
God, that was so easy.
I totally thought maybe they'll think it'll be something Chrono Trigger because I've just played Chrono Trigger, and that'd be a very Bally thing to be like, hey, I'm going to take a song from the game I just beat and stick it in the
You
test.
Just played my knowledge of you so hard.
And then I thought, but Final Fantasy VI has a lot of good songs, and then I listened to some of them and thought, some of these sound a lot like Chrono Trigger, so I guess I'll pick one of these. And I stuck it in there, and then so I thought it was this perfect... dastardly difficult one, and then when you started saying Phoenix Wright and Dragon Quest, I was like, I need to have more fun than this. It's not either of those. I want you to keep thinking. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Dear.
Wow, that's a good song. I mean, I don't think we need to say much more about Final Fantasy VI's soundtrack. We talked about it a bunch.
We have talked
on
about
our
it
Backlog Club, but it is undoubtedly one of the best soundtracks of all time. I think it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Fantastic.
And it really is very similar to Chrono Trigger. It's like these orchestral sounds, but then there's big bass drum on like a lot of the near the end of the song, the climax of the song, like they're really into that big bass drum. And I made sure that Chrono Trigger and this game had like a big bass drum because I thought that would give it away. Because I thought my impression before was that Final Fantasy VI had a bit more drum in it, and I think that's more or less false. I think they have about the same amounts. So
yes.
Yeah,
I can't believe I juked myself out of that because I was like, Final Fantasy, lock it in, and then it wasn't. I'm an idiot. But
I know you said final answer, but generally speaking, I will always triple check just to say, is that your final answer?
God, I hate you. Why did you do that? Why? I would have just left it at that and be done.
It's the way you went. No, it's Chrono Trigger. It's just one of the best jukebox moments I can remember.
Oh dear, lots of good jukebox moments today, mainly because I just flail about like a headless chicken.
I'll give it to you. That was a hard one. I picked five.
I mean, you know what? I should have got it, to be frank.
Yeah, I'd like
to
think they were within reach, but I think they were fairly tough generally. But
yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Bally. That was a good round. I enjoyed that. That was very fun. And please, everyone, let us know how you did and whether you got Final Fantasy VI when I went against my better judgment, alas. So we have a show to wrap up here then. This is the end of the show. So, hey, if you like what we do and you want some more of it, you can head on over to patreon.com/ThisNintendoLife, where you can support us on Patreon, and you get bonus episodes, things like that, and you get the opportunity to vote in things, vote on topics for the show, choose topics for the show, lots of different fun things. And we'd like to thank some of our patrons, Bally.
Yes, thank you to our $10 tier patrons. They are Atari Alex, Thomas, Matthew, and my fiancée Caroline. Thank you for your support. And yes, as MBZ said, we've just redone a bit our Patreon tiers, and we've got a new show, This Nintendo Life. Episode 2 will be coming out a week today. So you can look forward to that. We're going to talk about lots of Nintendo stuff and games we've been playing, some of the news, a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be a good time, and yeah, you can go check that out over there. We also have to tell people to play Nintendogs plus Cats. We have to tell ourselves to do it, for God's sake, Bally, because I haven't started it yet. But yes, please, we'll do that next episode. We're going to talk about Nintendogs plus Cats, and it's going to be fun, I think, because I have not played Nintendogs in a long goddamn time, and I want to get back to it. I want to unlock some Mario Karts. Don't even know if they're in the game, Bally. They could not even be there. Who knows? They
have got to be. I will be mightily disappointed if they're not.
You know what? All I want to do is just get a cat and see what it does, right? Because I know dogs. I've played with dogs before, but cats...
I didn't even think you could really train cats that easily.
Yeah, I wonder. what the situation is. Well, we'll find out, and we'll talk a lot about it next time when we talk about Nintendo plus Cats. In the meantime, if you haven't started... what are you doing? Get on with it. We've got 2 weeks. We're going to play Nintendo plus Cats. So get playing, and you can obviously go to our Discord, post in there. We've got a thread for the Backlog Club, but we also have our email address, which Bally will remind you of, where you can send all of your thoughts on Nintendo plus Cats, whether you played it at the 3DS launch or whether it's a game you've just picked up and are playing with us now. Send those emails to this address.
Please send them to ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. That is ThisNintendoLife@gmail.com. We also have a little Backlog Club thread in our Discord server. You can also leave a comment there if you have any comments on Nintendogs plus Cats on the 3DS.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find the show lots of different places. We're on Twitter. I'm at LordNBZ. Bally, what are you?
I am at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91.
Still waiting on that Ballman91 meme account. Just waiting for someone to do that.
Ballman91.
It's going to happen. Yes, you can follow the podcast Twitter at TNL Podcast. We get links to our YouTube, our Discord. YouTube video goes up same day now as the podcast on iTunes and on podcast platforms, so yeah, go watch it there if you want to instead. There's a different platform. You can obviously find us all over the shop. We are on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, you name it, we should be there on your podcast service. If you have a podcast app, just search for This Nintendo Life to subscribe, and then you never have to go looking for episodes. They just go straight to your phone or your device, or whatever you listen to. I used to listen on my computer back in the day, back when I didn't have a phone that could play podcasts very well. But
that is mad.
Yeah, it was mad, but we have moved on since back then, and we have evolved as a species, which means everyone just owns a goddamn phone that has a touch screen.
I do think the best platform, if you just want to dip into a single episode and check out like a part of any podcast, is probably Spotify. Like, it's very good to just go in quickly and scroll to on like a computer, for example.
Yeah, it's pretty helpful. And that's us saying, go listen to us on Spotify and inflate our numbers. That would be real nice. Cool. Well, that's going to close things out for today's show. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening, for sticking with us, for being here in these weird times that we continue to exist in. And we're not going anywhere. Hopefully Nintendo will show us some signs of life at some point, and we'll have some more things to talk about. Will they? Well, we'll see.
It's only July. There's a long
no
part
matter
of the year
what,
to come.
we'll be here talking about them, whether they want to tell us anything or not. So join us next time.
We'll steal their information from them and leak it all over the internet if we have to.
Yeah, boy. Boy. Anyway, we'll be back a couple of weeks' time with another episode for you, talking about Nintendo and video games. Until then, have a good one. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye, folks. The musical interludes from today's show were Picnic Road and Autumn Mountain, both from Paper Mario the Origami King, copyright Nintendo 2020. Shit. Yes. Oh, what is it? Fuck. Get off it. No. I know this. Shit. Get on. Oh, what is it? Ah! Oh, God. Shit. The fuck is this? I know this. Oh, fuck's sake. Oh, you're doing it again to me. Balls. Balls. Shit.
I love this game.
I don't. Oh, wait, is it? Oh, Fuck. So I fucking can sing along to it. Okay, I think I've got the vibe. Yes. Yes, I think so. Yes, I think.